All right, we're live with what I believe is week 9 of the podcast. And correct me if I'm wrong. Got a busy schedule tonight. We're talking NBA preview. Season starts tomorrow, so exciting stuff with that. We're previewing the World Series. Also starts tomorrow. It's going to be a good week of sports. Little college football, little NFL as always. We were going to start with NBA, but our NBA guest amateur Michael Moulter is a little late. So we're going to run through some NFL, possibly college football, until he gets here. So sorry to mix up the order on y'all a little bit, but as usual, NFL is probably going to go decently quick. We're going to start off with just reactions and picks from the week. We'll let Kyle start us off tonight. Oh, and just let everyone know we have a guest replacing Michael Serio as well. Graham Morse is on. If you are one of the crazy people that watches till the very end of these podcasts, you've seen him do a few beard reviews lately. So, Graham, say hi to the audience. Kyle,
Hey,
you
guys.
say hi.
Yeah, what's up, guys? In honor of NBA preview, I've got my Magic shirt on, Go Magic. And I've also got some pretty sweet Magic socks on that the camera cannot see because being a Magic fan means paying $8.99 to get socks with Shaq and Penny Hardaway on.
All right, Graham got cut off. I'm not going to let him go back and introduce himself. He'll just have to talk throughout the time. So, Kyle, start us off with some of your picks and some reactions from the week in the NFL.
Yeah, I actually had a better week. 7-6 against the spread, 8-5 straight up. Pretty standard stuff. I really liked my Jacksonville pick. As much as I did think E.J. Manuel was going to be all right, I figured that he wasn't going to beat the Jaguars because I don't think he's very good. AKA why I took Jacksonville straight up, and it was a good pick. Not much to say other than that.
Doobie, what you got?
I was awful this week, as I am every week in the NFL. No redeeming qualities there. Not proud of myself whatsoever. I always have some pick that makes me want to crawl into a dumpster and pass out. This week it was picking the 49ers to cover. I don't know what was going through my head.
I thought he'd be picking Philadelphia straight up.
Yeah, that was also, I was about to say that. Thanks for stealing my thunder. I'm calling myself out. But I'm also not really disappointed in the pick, but just disappointed in the team. I picked the Bucks straight up, and being in the Tampa Bay area down here, living in Tampa, the only people that I heard more angry and more disappointed than Florida State fans were Tampa Bay Bucks fans. The radio is erupting. It's just constantly men screaming at the top of their lungs, how could this happen? Fire Lovie Smith. It's pretty hilarious, but I feel bad for Jameis because he actually played fantastically.
Yeah, he was number 3 QBR in the week, so good to see him doing well. Yeah, we actually were all on Tampa. Serio just had them to cover, so he's the only one that got that pick fully right. But myself, Kyle, and you do, we all picked Tampa to win that one straight up, so that was a tough one to watch unfold at the end. Graham obviously did not have any picks, so he went 0-13 this week in the NFL, as did Trevor, who is also not here tonight with us. He forgot to make picks except for the Thursday night game, in which he picked San Francisco straight up and lost it anyway. So he was 0-13 on spread and straight up this week. He now no longer has the lead in the spread picks. I have the lead in the spread picks by a very thin margin, by a few games over Kyle and over Serio. Serio continues to take over with the straight up, but we are all catching up to him slowly. All right, we're going to move in to our next topic, and that is going to be there are 5, correct me if I'm wrong, 5 current undefeated teams in the NFL. Get y'all's ideas on who you think is going to lose first out of those teams. Kyle, start us off.
So I think it's going to be Cincinnati. I love AJ Green. I don't think Andy Dalton's going to stay as productive a quarterback as he has been. I'd like to say the Panthers because they've been playing a bunch of close games, but they also play in the NFC South, so that gives them a little bit of leeway. I think the first team will definitely be the Bengals.
Doobie.
The Broncos play the Packers on Sunday. Enough said.
Yep, took that right out of my mouth there. Graham, who you got losing first out of the undefeateds?
I've got to go with the Broncos as well, being the first ones out. The only reason it's not the Panthers is because they play on Monday Night Football.
Fair enough. All right, yeah. To me, it's the Broncos, and it's not just that they're playing Green Bay. It's that they're by far the worst undefeated team to me. They keep scratching out these games. They haven't looked that good. Manning's looked off. I just can't see their defense continuing to keep them undefeated that much longer. When you got a team like Green Bay coming in, I don't care how good your defense is, they're scoring points. And I can't believe I'm actually talking up Green Bay when we don't even have Sirio here, and it didn't even have to happen. All right. So here, kind of the bottom of the league. Who do y'all think is going to end up with the first pick in the draft with the worst record in the NFL? Kyle.
I think it's the Lions. I know Stafford's been playing his butt off lately. I just don't think. I think they're already off to a pretty awful start. Unfortunately, the Bucs are going to figure out a way to scrap out wins because Jameis is a competitor. I would like to say it's going to be the Bucs, but they're going to figure out a way to get 5 or 6 wins. I think it's Detroit.
Doobie.
I've got the Titans. Mariota going down with a knee injury is the worst thing that could happen to that franchise. I don't know if he'll ever come back from a knee injury. He relies so much on his legs. It's very sad. But even without the knee injury, he has not been an effective quarterback. For all the hype that was given to him after he defeated Jameis Winston in Game 1, they haven't won a game since. Which is, they're just not a good team by any stretch. They don't have half the weapons that the Bucs do. The Lions have weapons, which is why I think that they'll win a couple games. The Titans have none. Kendall Wright is their best weapon, which is really sad. Also, they have another SEC quarterback with a tattoo on his chest. So joining A.J. McCarron, we've got Zach Mettenberger, who also has the last name Berger, but is not as good as Ben Roethlisberger. So he's failing on every category. He's not as good chest tattooed, and he's not as good Berger. So just cancel him. Titans are losing it.
Graham, who you got?
I've actually got the Texans. I think it's going to be a close race for who gets it, but with Arian Foster going down, they really don't have a quarterback that can actually play. They've been blown out twice by the Falcons and the Dolphins. They don't look like a good team. Jadeveon Clowney hasn't been what he's supposed to be. J.J. Watt hasn't even been as good as he usually is. I don't see them being able to pull away a couple more wins, and I think they get the first overall pick.
Yeah, I almost went Texans after the Foster, but I looked at the schedules a little bit. I don't see the 49ers winning many games. I don't think they're going to win a single divisional game. The Rams have yet to play them, but the Rams' defense is playing too well right now. Seahawks already beat them. I believe Arizona beat them. I just don't see them going through and winning any of those divisional games. I'm going to go with the 49ers. I don't think they've had a first pick in my recent memory. It's going to be interesting to see them down like that, but I'm going to stick with it. There's going to be a lot of 2-3 win teams, I think, so it really could go any way toward the end of the season. We'll have to see. Any other thoughts on the NFL? Pretty quiet week.
I have a fun fact before we move on from the NFL.
All right.
So E.J. Manuel is the first quarterback to lose a start in 3 different countries.
Wait,
USA,
how is that?
Canada, and he's also lost in England.
Oh, that's true.
Wait, when did he lose a game in Canada?
They play the Bills play in Toronto every year.
Yeah,
that's right. My goodness.
I think they play 2 or 3 games there actually.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a pretty good one.
I do want to comment on that. EJ looked like the worst quarterback in the National Football League in the first quarter. He did fight back well enough, but me personally, I've finally given up on EJ to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. I finally relented. He's gone down the Ponder route for me. I can't say that I think he deserves another shot anymore. He had his shot now. That's it for him.
Yeah. I remember when that draft pick happened, I actually started cracking up watching the television. I didn't like EJ at Florida State. I didn't think he was a good quarterback. I definitely didn't think it was going to be any different in the NFL. He has some moments, but to me, if you can't throw a slant pass, which EJ has never, ever, ever been able to do, you cannot play quarterback at a high level. It's one of the most basic passes in the game. He can drop one over the top. He can check it down. Anything 8 to 20 yards across the middle. He's one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks I've watched on good teams play. I'm sure there's been plenty I haven't watched on bad teams play. But, I hope Jameis really turns around as far as Florida State quarterbacks in the league. He needs to hold candle on that for a while.
Well, Palmer, I'm sure you'll agree with me that even if Jameis doesn't, Everett Golson will once he makes it to the next level. So.
No, not yet. Not doing it yet. I don't believe he gets drafted as a quarterback in the NFL.
I was Palmer.
I knew it would be I knew he'd be very facetious. But there are still people that think Jimbo's going to get him drafted. I don't think he goes to the NFL as a quarterback. Period. So.
I wouldn't be doing my spot justice if I didn't take a second or two just to talk about the Packers per the request of Michael Serio. This week they play Denver, who's undefeated, and next week they play Carolina. In the words of Michael Serio, what a time to be alive. The Packers are about to become the last undefeated team after they play Carolina next week. So I apologize for that. I feel like I should probably get muted just like Serio would for that, but...
Well, I'm just curious who you think the Pats are going to lose to. Yeah, they're not losing in the next few weeks. So.
I don't think the Pats can lose a game except to the Jets, honestly, the rest of their schedule.
The Pats aren't losing the game.
They might lose to the Jets at MetLife, and that's not me being biased, but the Jets actually, I think, are a top 5 team in the NFL.
That was a very good game. The Jets-Patriots game really could have gone either way at several points. That was a tough one. Jets definitely have the ability to beat them.
I guess if they keep trending upwards, the Dolphins also have the talent to put up a game against them, but I don't think it happens.
Not this week.
All right, so we're going to hold off on college football until after the NBA preview because we are awful at being brief on college football. We're going to try it this week. We're going to run through it quick. We don't have a lot of extra topics. Next few weeks we'll have the committee rankings out. It'll be a little deeper in the season. After 2 weeks from now, stuff's really going to get intense, so we'll go more in depth after a few weeks. But we're definitely going to have some light college football weeks here. We're going to run through it tonight. Start off as usual, just picks, any reactions we have. Kyle, start us off.
Yeah, 7-12 against the spread, 15-4 straight up. Still trending pretty well on straight up picks. I actually decided to listen to Palmer a couple weeks ago when he gave me shit about not picking anybody straight up. So I proceeded to pick like 5 teams straight up, and like 4 of them lost. So.
Well, you lost 3 and won 2 on that, so that's actually not too bad.
But I mean, so the goal is to never listen to Palmer again. But like my Tennessee pick, I figured that I still am not that impressed with Alabama. If Tennessee hits a couple field goals, they win that game. So I like my Tennessee pick to cover, but Bama to win. And then we'll talk about impressive and disappointing in a second.
Doobie.
Palmer, I noticed that you didn't address the current standings in the picks, so I'll just wait.
At the end.
Because he's not in first place, you know that.
Okay, well, I'll just go ahead and then say I'm very proud of myself. I am in a commanding and maybe insurmountable lead in the spread picks. Against the spread. I'm sitting at 53% average, which I'm pretty impressed with. I'm also in the lead in the straight-up picks. But as far as this week goes, there's not one single pick I'm super proud of. I picked Temple straight up, but I didn't really understand why they weren't favored.
The only reason is because they were on the road.
But still, East Carolina is not a great team.
I agree.
I guess I'm proud of picking Tennessee straight up because they had a lead late in the fourth quarter, and that was very close to being realistic. And I know that sounded absolutely insane. So the fact that was a 15.5-point spread at Bama, I picked them straight up. They only lost by 5 points. I'll take it every time. I guess the one that I am disappointed in the most was I picked Miami +7, so that's another sleep in a dumpster worthy pick. I'm sorry to everyone on the face of the earth, especially you, Al Golden, because I think this is my fault in the end. Mine, and yep, it was you, Kyle. So
yes, I picked it as well. I did.
I think my dad picked Miami straight up though, so he beats us all.
Yeah, I'm surprised Kyle didn't have a little fight back when Doobie said insurmountable lead on the spread picks. Kyle's sitting at only 4 behind him, so That'll be fun to watch in the next few weeks there.
When my numbers go up a little bit, I'll start to brag. But for now, I'm in second place, and that's the first loser.
Yeah, I was a little mad at Doobie. He edged me out by one in the spread picks this week. I thought I had a good setup. Although I did go 18-1 in the straight up picks, I was very happy with that. Don't need to tell anyone who my one wrong was, so I'm just not going to bother. It's pretty obvious. We're going to move right into our most disappointing team of the week in college football. Kyle, try to be brief because I know no one wants to hear too much of this.
Well, it's the Knowles. Shut out in the second half. You get the ball 2 times inside the 20 thanks to turnovers by the defense, and you only get 10 points out of it. That's a joke. They looked terrible. The defense played well, but your offense isn't going to win any football games like that. And it was even worse to sit there and actually watch it in person. So as much fun as Atlanta was this weekend, it turned really sour in about 10 seconds.
Doobie, most disappointing team.
If I was a non-biased spectator of the sport of college football, it would absolutely be the Florida State Seminoles, but because I am biased, I came in with a bad feeling about that game at Tech, and I just had a bad feeling we were going to lose. So at the end, although I was heartbroken, I was not disappointed because I kind of expected it to come. I will say the number 16 is not good for Florida State. When they land on it, they can't win. Especially when they score it in the first half, because you can just go ahead and cancel that we'll score points in the second half. But my most disappointing team is actually Texas A&M, simply because I don't understand how everyone, I didn't fall under the spell, but every year they seem to be built up, and the pollsters, I got to give them credit, they actually didn't put them higher than 9, I believe, this year, where they could have put them in the top 3, the way they've trended in the past few years. But they're not a good program. I don't understand the hype around Kevin Sumlin, that he needs to be a coach at somewhere like USC. He can recruit, but he never delivers on the talent that he gets. They disappointed the hell out of me. Ole Miss is not a great team in my opinion, and they made Texas A&M look worse than Arkansas.
All right, Grant, most disappointing team.
I'm probably going to have to go with UCF. They had a 10-7 lead, and they let up 52 unanswered points. It's hard to believe that a team has gone from where they were to where they are currently, to having their head coach resign. They're not a bad program, but it's puzzling to me that the team could go from a BCS game that they won to this level against such a great recruiting state of Florida. But I'd have to go with UCF without having to be biased with Florida State.
Because Kyle said FSU, I'm just going to throw Miami in there because you have the talent on that team. There's enough NFL draft picks out of there every year. There's talented players. You should never lose a game 58-0 with the talent they have and the history they have. That's embarrassing for the program. It was the worst loss in program history. I know Clemson's good, but that's too much. It finally pulled the trigger on Al Golden getting fired. We'll see if Miami by any chance has any kind of money to pay for firing him and trying to find a coach. But yeah, so that was, to me, that's a program hurting loss right there. That could have major repercussions if they can't find a good solid coach to come take that spot.
Can you have an honorary mention of the Miami fans themselves? I mean,
there's nothing disappointing about the fact that they're never at the stadium. I mean, I don't care if they're winning. No one goes to that game unless Florida State's playing. So that's just kind of the running joke. I can't give too much disappointment to that. We're going to flip the script now. We're going to go most impressive team of the week. Kyle, start us off.
Staying on that Miami Clemson game, Clemson looked really good. Defense played well. Sean Watson looked well. Running backs looked well. What you don't realize is that they're, obviously Florida State's young. Clemson's pretty young too. A lot of guys that are juniors but are playing real downs and snaps for their first year. So I'm very worried to play them on November 7th as a Knoll fan. A little happier that it's a 3:30 instead of a 7, but they looked really good last week.
Doobie, most impressive.
I mean, it's obviously Clemson, but I can't get the mouth, so it's Stanford for me. Washington is and as much as I think USC is underwhelming and underdelivered, I am in the fact I kept expecting. Good for them. Pac-12 with 3 wins.
All right, Graham, who was your most impressive team this week?
As much as it pains me to say it, as much as you guys probably say that much of the blame can be on Jimbo Fisher, I gotta say Georgia Tech. They really came into the game with a game plan of they're going to stop Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook was the really big key factor for Florida State, and they stopped him anytime they had a chance. And they really came out and played their A game. They didn't have anything to lose, and for their homecoming game, I thought it was pretty ballsy that they would schedule Florida State, but they showed up, and they looked the most impressive of the games that I saw this weekend.
All right, I'm not going to beat a dead horse because I'm going Clemson as well for the week. That's showing up to a game. That's getting them ready for the Knowles in a few weeks. So I think they got a great chance to run the table at this point. Let's see. We're going to move to our next college football topic. The always fun reverse Heisman Trophy winner. Kyle, who you got? Am I the only one that can't hear Kyle at all right now?
Can't hear you either.
Okay, Kyle, we can't hear what you're saying. Doobie, who you got for reverse Heisman?
I like Kyle's pick. I'm going to take in the same theme of Texas A&M, Kyle Allen. Kid was awful. His stat line, I believe his total QBR was 8. He went something like 12 of 34 in that game, and I believe he got pulled for a walk-on. But, you know, Texas A&M's disappointing. Kyle Allen's disappointing. He was hyped way high up, and it was just terrible. So, yep, Kyle Allen, you're out.
He got pulled for a walk-on when they have the true freshman stud?
I maybe some
Tyler
kid.
Murray?
No, they didn't play him. Some kid named Handelstat or something like that.
Maybe they just gave. That's weird because their true freshman guy Kyler Murray's been coming on and playing a good bit, so that's interesting.
Some other guy came on and had a 10. His QBR was 10.
Jesus, Kyle, can you speak? No, he can't. Okay, so Graham, who is your reverse Heisman?
I would have to say my reverse Heisman is Aaron Medley, kicker for Tennessee. Even though the end of the game ended in a fumble that wasn't really favorable for Tennessee, it's still his job to get out there every single game and kick those field goals, and he missed 0 for 3 on field goals, and you got to make those if that's your only job.
All right, let's see.
Clearly, Graham does not know the rule that if you pick a kicker, Palmer automatically thinks you are an unintelligent and uninspired individual.
Yeah, but Graham knows I already think that about him, so I mean, I'm not gonna pile it on.
Why beat a dead horse, right?
All right, so Kyle jumped out. He's gonna try to jump back in. We also got our guest coming in live. So, Dube, you want to start us on just a quick preview of next week in college football?
There's really not much to preview next week.
Easy now. World's largest cocktail party, man.
I think that's going to be a solid game. I think it will probably go UF's way, but that's the best game of the week. I mainly, and I'm sorry to say this, I don't think that you can build that as a big game because it seems that the most disappointing team in that series wins every year, and obviously Georgia is disappointed more this year. Florida should win, but because logic doesn't work in Jacksonville, you'll probably have the Bulldogs win this one. I'm sorry, Trevor, and slightly sorry to you, Palmer, for my insulting words about the Georgia Bulldogs.
It happens. The thing about that game is the winner is in the driver's seat to play spoiler later on. Doobie, I know you're a big fan of the chaos theory that we're going to talk about in a few weeks, but
I won't even get into it now because I'll start sounding like a mad scientist and I'll rant on for 25 minutes. But yes, I agree.
So, yeah, I mean, Georgia wins that game. They're a two-loss team heading into that SEC championship game. You never know what's going to happen with something like that. We're going to beat Florida at the end of the year, so there'll be a two-loss if they're in the SEC championship game. Either way, that's going to be a big spoiler possibility in the SEC championship game. Graham, you got anything for next week in college football?
Yeah, I mean, Georgia-Florida is probably my biggest game that I'm most excited for. I think also West Virginia TCU on Thursday could be a pretty interesting game. TCU is ranked number 5, but I think West Virginia can play them pretty tough, and it might be a good game.
Yeah, those Thursday nights, you never know with something like that. You can see a lot of upsets there, so that's definitely one to keep an eye if TCU kind of drops off. We didn't mention it all. I think it's worth mentioning. It'll be interesting to see how Baylor's backup quarterback plays the rest of the year. Seth Russell, their starter, who's been fantastic, is out for the year. He's got to have neck surgery. Then again, they seem to be kind of a plug-and-chug system. So it'll be interesting to see if they have any kind of fall-off from that. Kyle, any thoughts from your time out of commission?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
All right, so the kid's name is Jared Stidham. He's a true freshman, so that'll be interesting.
Big-time recruit, if I remember right, though.
What?
Big-time recruit, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah, number 2 pocket passer coming out of school last year, so he's got big shoes to fill. He was committed to Texas Tech for a long time, and then there was nobody to back up Seth Russell, and he immediately bolted and went to Waco. But so that should be really interesting. And he's going to get thrown into the fire because the back end of their schedule is rough.
All right. Any more college football thoughts before we move into the NBA season preview? Doesn't appear to be any more thoughts. All right. Hopefully our guests will be hopping on any minute, but we're going to have to get started on this. Nice and simple to start. Tip-off tomorrow in the NBA 2015-16 season. We got a nice selection of guests here. No one fans of the same teams. We're going to have some fantastic homerism throughout the year. The first few weeks, we're going to have a nice segment called Delusional, where he's on to something, and it's going to be a fan of a team you would not expect to be good this year, trying to talk us into why their team is going to be great and go all the way possibly. We will decide whether they are absolutely out of their minds, which is highly likely, or they might actually have a point. We're gonna have we might have one this week. I haven't decided. Depends how time goes. But I know Kyle's itching to do a Magic one soon. I'll be bringing that from the Lakers' point of view at some point. So we'll be having some fun with that. Start off nice and easy. Biggest take from the off season, Kyle.
Yeah, well, I'll just preface this with I'm going to be a Magic homer. I'll try not to let it show as much, but I've got a little 15-game ticket package, so I'm probably going to be talking about the Magic a lot, whether they're good or bad. Off season was a lot of fun, a lot of old faces and new places. Marcus with the Spurs, David Lee to the Celtics. Obviously, you got Darren Williams going back home to Dallas, and then Paul Pierce to the Clippers. That, and then a lot of rookies who are going to have the ability to make a pretty big impact right off the bat. So it should be a good year.
Doobie, what do you got?
I'll follow Kyle up with I'm probably supporting the only team on the face of the earth that has less support than the Orlando Magic, and that is the Atlanta Hawks. I'm a diehard Hawks fan. I'm probably the only diehard Hawks fan outside of the city of Atlanta, possibly the only white diehard Hawks fan on the face of the earth. But I have something in common with T.I., so that makes me feel better about myself. My takeaway from the offseason is really that small market teams are emerging. This actually happened during the season last year too. Obviously, with the Golden State Warriors winning the championship, they are considered a small market team. They're in Oakland. They haven't moved over to San Francisco yet, but that's really taken a big step for those teams. Obviously, the Spurs did so many years back, but they've become such a perennial powerhouse that they don't even count as a small market team anymore. But then you look at teams like the Bucks. Signing Greg Monroe, that's a big signing in the free agent market. He could have gone to any team. Any team would have paid him that contract that he got from the Bucks, and he chose the Bucks himself. You also look at a guy like Paul Millsap, another guy who could have gone anywhere for a high level contract, and he was down to two teams, the Hawks and the Magic.
He should have gone to the Magic.
Well, and he rightfully so chose the Hawks. Although I think we might be having him play the 3 guard or the 3 position, so he might regret that decision going forward. But those guys, considering these teams, is really big, and I think that's going to change a lot of the NBA going forward once these teams, these guys, these free agents start trending towards the smaller teams going forward.
All right, Graham, biggest take.
So I think for me the biggest takeaway was that this day and age is not really always about max contracts. I mean, even though that's a thing, the Warriors were able to get back Draymond Green without having to give him a max contract, even though it seemed like they probably would have given him one if that's what it came down to. But I think the biggest takeaway for me was the Warriors had a great team going into, or ending last year actually, and they've got pretty much the same core of a team going in this year, and they didn't really have to go out and do much during free agency. So I think it'll be interesting to see if they're able to repeat or if they're able to stay at that same level with the same team.
One thing I will say about them is I think it's kind of tough with them because they did lose David Lee, and although I know he was not a contributor on the court as much, I think he might suffer something similar to what the Colts are suffering in football this year when you lose that veteran presence that Reggie Wayne served in their locker room. Losing a guy like David Lee, who's been with that team forever, could have an effect on them. So I would not be surprised if we saw a major drop-off from the Warriors going into the season because of that small loss.
All right, before I hit that topic, I want to welcome our guest amateur, big basketball guy, one of the biggest I know, Michael Moulter. Say hi.
Hey guys, how's it going? Excited to be on the show and ready to do some basketball whenever you are.
All right, so you caught us right in the first topic. So, Mike, what was your biggest takeaway from the offseason?
Well, other than DeAndre Jordan kind of going to the Mavericks and then saying, actually I don't want to do that, I kind of have to look at how LaMarcus Aldridge went to the Spurs. It kind of sets a new lineup with Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge. And you have Tim Duncan obviously protecting the center down there. But it'll be interesting to see how Tony Parker can lead that team. It's a lot of touches that need to go around. They're good at passing, but now it's an extra person who needs to be putting up about 20 a game there. So that was a good move, but we got to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, Aldridge going to a team that we keep saying every year, are they too old? Are they finally too old? And now they injected a guy like that with Kawhi's emergence the past 2 seasons. Going to make them, with the best current coach in the NBA, is going to make them extremely deadly this year. Probably my biggest thing from the offseason was the fact that the Cavs were willing to spend any amount of money they needed to contend. I don't know how far over the cap they are exactly, but they're going to be paying huge luxury tax on that. Dan Gilbert's bank account is going to be just dropping down very quickly with all the salaries they're giving out. They want it, and they want it now. And I got to say, if they're healthy, they're going to be tough to beat no matter what. All right, so that's the offseason. We're going to move into a little more talking about what might happen throughout the season. We're going to start with most exciting roster of the season. I didn't really put a caveat for the guys on this, so it can mean most excited they most excited to watch, most potential, however they wanted to go with it, they went with it. Kyle, start us off.
Yeah, okay. I'm excited to see where the Bucks go from here with the healthy Jabari Parker. They obviously signed Greg Monroe in the offseason, re-signed Chris Middleton. I got MCW, who hasn't been, trailblazing as far as the point guard goes, but I think they're a young team that's going to be fun to watch. Jason Kidd has been playing well, went to the playoffs last year and contested. I'm really excited to watch them play. I think they're going to be a sleeper in the East. I'm not sure. I've kind of got them where I have them. I've got them finishing 5th in the East, but I think they'll be somewhere in that 5 to 7 range, and they'll be a scary team in the playoffs.
Doobie.
I never thought I would say these words in my entire life, but I've got the San Antonio Spurs as the most exciting roster. Moulter led into it a little bit, but what excites me about them is I think you're going to see them rest guys like they do every season and still be a top 3 team in the West without those guys in the game. I think that trade for LaMarcus Aldridge, you look at what they've solidified with getting Kawhi Leonard locked up, getting Danny Green locked up, and now having LaMarcus Aldridge locked up, that's as good a core going forward as any other team in the West. And then you throw in those veterans who are still unbelievable. That is an exciting team. Their style of basketball isn't exciting, but seeing LaMarcus Aldridge, who's arguably the best power forward in the NBA, play with those guys and what they can do, that's going to be an exciting prospect.
Graham.
Me personally, it's kind of just the one person I'm most excited to watch, but I'm excited to see Kevin Durant get back, finally healthy. He's looked good in the preseason, and I think in the final year of his contract, he's going to try to make a statement and try to bring a championship back to Oklahoma City. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him, and they're the most excited team that I'm excited to watch.
Right before he jets off to Washington to join his hometown Wizards.
Exactly.
Walter, who are you most excited for?
If I could even say this, I can't believe it, but the Houston Rockets actually, they got Ty Lawson on that team. It'll help James Harden not turn the ball over so much. And I hate to say it, but out of the toughest division, I think if they can get out on top, they have a really good shot of going all the way this year.
Yeah, I had Rockets at my number 2 spot there, looking at those rosters today.
Yeah, they're mine too.
Part of it for me is I absolutely love Trevor Ariza. He helped the Lakers win 2 championships. I think he is an extremely underrated player. He does so much on the court, and he brings a level of excitement and intensity to the game. With a guy like Harden who already does that, and then you have Howard, who just always is a big old comic book character out there. So, but I actually went with the Minnesota Timberwolves for this. Wiggins, I mean, we already know Wiggins is going to be a great player in the league. Zach LaVine is so much fun to watch. When Rubio's passing is on, it's pretty. I mean, I love watching that. Now they got Karl Anthony Towns, who I really wish would have dropped to the Lakers in the draft. I think he's going to be a phenomenal NBA player. I got them making the playoffs. I think they're going to be a really exciting team out west this year. It's my big upset pick in the West. It's probably not going to happen. I just kind of wanted to because I'm really excited to watch them play basketball. It's probably going to take them a few years.
Yeah,
they're starting Angels aged 19 to 25.
I love it.
And the Angels are going to win the World Series this year, and the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, hey, a man can dream. A man can dream. All right, we're going to move to our next topic, and right to the opposite, least exciting. So normally what the Spurs would be of just bland, you don't want to watch it, basketball, or just they're not even going to matter whatsoever. Someone like the Utah Jazz usually is. So Kyle, start us off again.
Pretty easy on this one. I'm not excited to watch the Sixers whatsoever, especially with Joel Embiid going down for a second straight year. I love Jahlil Okafor. I loved him at school. They're not going to be very much fun to watch. Him and Noel are going to be the only 2 guys of record that will be interesting for that team. And then I like Nick Stauskas because of his last name. But other than that, I think the Sixers are just once again going to tank.
Doobie.
For me, it's easily the Brooklyn Nets. That is maybe the most uninspiring NBA roster I've ever seen. Literally the most impressive and interesting thing about the Brooklyn Nets is that there's someone on their roster named Bogan Bogdanovic. Mikhail Prokhorov is probably the worst owner ever to exist in the history of sports outside of Washington, D.C. Yeah, I hope that I never have to see the Brooklyn Nets on television or anywhere else. I hope that Anthony Scudillo renounces his fanship, and I hope he knows that I still pronounce his name wrong.
Graham, who you got?
I'm going to have to side with Kyle on this one. The Sixers just look absolutely awful. I don't think they're going to make it to 20 wins for the 3rd year in a row, and it's just going to be a mess up in Philly.
Boulder.
Other than like the easy choice out of Charlotte, they lost Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. That team, they're just bound to be bad. Also, you got to look out for Portland. You know that there's only one person on that roster other than Damian Lillard that averaged over 10 points a game last year. That's a really bad roster. They lost a lot of talent after LaMarcus jumped down, so that's going to be a bad team to watch.
That's a great stat. I did not realize that was the case. Jesus Christ.
Gerald Henderson, I think, is the only other person. He didn't even play with the team last year.
Gerald Henderson. I forgot that Matthews is in Dallas now, so that's true.
That sucks because I absolutely love Damian Lillard. I wish he'd be on a contender. That kid's fun to watch. He's a clutch shooter. Really brings some energy to the floor. Enjoy that.
Yeah, I tried to argue with a bunch of people last year before the Warriors made their huge run that I would take Lillard over Curry any day of the week. Obviously, I've been knocked back a little bit on that, but I still think that Lillard is not far behind, if not equal, with Curry. And I would say that you really can't count the Trailblazers out for too long when they have a building block like that. I think they will recover quickly, but this year they are going to be really tough to watch.
Yeah, my least exciting for me, it's going to be the Phoenix Suns. Eric Bledsoe, he's getting old. Brandon, not physically old, but I'm just getting sick of like what he does out there. Doesn't bring much to the table. Brandon Knight's been a disappointment. Their big acquisition was Tyson Chandler. I think that team is just going to be awful to watch. I barely recognize half the names on the roster. It's going to be rough. I have no interest in watching a single game they play in.
Their starting power forward doesn't even want to play on their team because his twin's not on the team anymore.
Yeah, that's a dumpster fire going on over there. Also, the Celtics are going to be awful, I bet, so don't watch the Celtics ever play basketball. All right, going to move into our playoff picks, starting with the East. Kyle, what do you got for the playoffs in the East?
Yeah, pretty standard stuff. I feel like 4 through 6 are kind of interchangeable, but what I've got the Cavs winning it, the Hawks staying up there and going 2. I got the Raptors, the Wizards, and the Heat. So 3, 4, 5. Bucks in 6th. I've got the Bulls 7th, and then my sleeper and homer pick. I have the Magic somehow figuring out a way to win at least 44 games and getting in the 8th spot.
All right, Doobie.
All right, I had to hop out and hop back in real quick, but we are on the topic of
East playoff teams.
East playoff teams. All right, I'm about to make all of you think that I am a ridiculous fool.
It's impossible to do that. I just said the Magic would make the playoffs.
Okay, no, I'm not that bad. Yeah. But I think that the Bucks are going to have the number 1 seed in the East at the end of the season. I think that they're going to be a really, really good basketball team all season. Similar to the Hawks last season, I don't think they'll deliver and win the conference, but I think that they're going to be a very good team all season. I think they win the East regular season. I have the Cavs right behind them in the 2 seed. I have the Hawks in the 3 seed behind them. I've got the Bulls as the 4 seed, the Raptors as the 5, the Wizards as the 6, the Heat as the 7, and I've got the Indianapolis or Indiana Pacers as my 8 seed, with Paul George coming back healthy.
So you don't have the Celtics in?
I don't, and I'll get into that a little bit later.
Celtics suck, Walter.
Ooh.
All right, Graham, who you got in the East?
So I didn't have mine in any specific order. I do have Cleveland winning the East, but I'll run down
That's a specific order.
Do what?
That's a specific order.
It is, okay, sure. All right. So Cleveland at number 1, and then 2 through 8 in no specific order. Atlanta, Washington, Chicago, Miami, the Pacers, Toronto, and the Bucks.
So did you forget where the Bucks and Pacers play, or you just didn't feel like saying those cities?
What do you mean, like with Pacers being in Indianapolis?
I'm just like giving you shit. And you gave me cities for all but 2 teams, so it's just kind of weird.
Did you name the Bulls?
Yeah, Chicago.
Okay.
I chose a city for them.
Yeah. Okay. If a Bulls fan isn't going to pick the Bulls to the playoffs this year, there would really be some issues on there. That might be mute-worthy if that had happened. Mulder, who you got in the East?
I got Cleveland winning. They'll probably win 60-plus games. As long as I can stay healthy, it's no problem there. 2 seed, I have Chicago. 3 seed, I have Boston. They could easily win 50-plus games. They're a really deep team and well-coached. Really efficient as well. I got Atlanta falling down to the 4th, then Miami at 5, Toronto 6, Indiana 7, and Milwaukee at 8. But I do like Milwaukee, very tall team. They could do some damage in the playoffs. And then I have Washington as a 9, just missing out.
I was going to say, so no Washington at all. That's interesting.
All right, I'm gonna list off nice and quick. I got Cavs, Bulls, Wizards, Hawks, Raptors, Heat, Bucks, Magic. I'm agreeing with Kyle. I think the Magic squeak in. I think some of the big usual East teams have a rough year. I definitely like the Bucks to make it. Paul George is back. We're gonna see. We'll see where they even play him. If they play him at that 4 spot, he's been pissed about it all preseason. I love him as a player, but he does have some prima donna issues occasionally. So if that continues to be an issue with the coach, I don't expect him to make it too far. Kyle, yeah, Magic 8 seed, bounce first round to the Cavs, but playoff spot's nice to have.
I didn't pick the Pacers solely because I watched them in a preseason game and I saw George Hill's hair, and I was like, absolutely.
I can't fault you for that one.
I will say I disagree with you, Palmer. I think this is one of the most interesting years for the East in a long time. I think this is the strongest it's been in a very long time. I was looking at the power rankings today, and I had to cross names out to get the Celtics out of the playoffs, and I don't think that they're that terrible of a team. But this is a big year for the East. You look at the Hawks, and everyone's projected. Even me, as a diehard Hawks fan, I'm picking them to fall to third in the division or third in the East when they had a record-setting year last year. This is gonna be a good year for the East. I don't see it the way you do.
I second that, Doobie.
Fair warning to all positive comments about the Celtics. You may get muted. Who knows? I got a trigger finger over here, and I hate the Boston Celtics.
Celtics give me 3 seed.
Damn it, I'm too busy doing something else on the agenda to find it right now, but be careful there, Molter. So biggest surprise team, probably obvious from picks, but just run through who you think is going to be the biggest shocker in the East, Kyle.
Well, I mean, I talked about the Magic a second ago. I think they're very young. I like them to play 82 games and stay healthy. I was worried about Tobias Harris in the offseason, whether we were going to re-sign him or not. Thought we'd overpay him. Turns out we did pay him a little bit more than I would have liked to, but didn't give him a max deal, which is great. I'm going to eat my words that I said during the draft that Hazonia wasn't going to be a playmaker. I watched him a couple times in the preseason. If he gets his minutes, he's going to play really well for them. And I love Nik Vucevic. I think he's going to continue to break out. He's had some good years, and he's well worth the money they're paying him.
All-star.
Very good. Love him.
Doobie.
Obviously, for me, it's the Bucks. This team is unreal, athletic, and talented. You got Jabari Parker, you got the Greek Freak, and you've got Greg Monroe added to that mix in addition to their backcourt. It's going to be an impressive year in Milwaukee. I hate Jason Kidd. I can't stand him, but I think he is a great coach, and I think he's going to bring this team way past where people thought. And I think that you're going to see a team outside of the Packers actually get some attention in the state of Wisconsin.
Dude, the only thing I think hurts the Bucks is those 3 big guys. You got Parker, Antetokounmpo, and Monroe. They all shoot free throws terribly. So I think late game situations that could hurt really badly, and especially in the playoffs. I would love to see them make a run, and I think they will. They were my most exciting team. Monroe can't shoot a free throw to save his life. Jabari in his 1 year at Duke was really bad, and then he got hurt. Antetokounmpo, I don't have numbers on him, but from what I've seen, that's the only thing that I think that could derail a real run is making free throws.
I would like to think that Jabari Parker was sitting on one leg shooting free throws for an entire 12 months, so that's what I'm basing that on.
All right, Graham.
I picked the Bucks just because Greg Monroe chose them out of everybody else that he met with. Obviously, I'm not the biggest NBA fan, so I can't sit here and give you some stats or really some inside information. But I think that the team that the Bucks have put together looks like they might not be the best on paper, but they're going to come together, and they'll be a fun team to watch, and they'll end up making the playoffs, which make them an exciting team to watch.
Molter.
I actually really like this Indiana Pacers team with Monte Ellis and Paul George and George Hill. They could probably post about 65 points alone just from those 3. And I think Miles Turner is a dark horse for Rookie of the Year. He's the center from Texas on that team. They got Jan Mahimi on the team, but he gets in foul trouble, and he can only play so much. So watch out for the Pacers.
Miles Turner looked great in the summer.
Really want to.
All right, moving right along, we're going to get into the West playoff picture, and go ahead and talk about your biggest surprise during it. Try to save a little time here and combine them. Kyle, start us off in the West.
Okay, so I've got the Spurs at 1, Warriors at 2. I think the Spurs, like we said, they'll be a top 3 team. I think they're going to be able to sit people and still finish at the top. Thunder at 3, Clips at 4. Then I've got Grizz, Rockets, Suns, and Pelicans. So my 5 through 8. I'm really excited to watch the Thunder game. Graham touched on it earlier. with Durant being completely healthy, Westbrook. They were always fun to watch. Both of those guys were on the floor. They put up a lot of shots. Some not so great all the time, but I'm excited to see how they do this year. So they're my most exciting team, I guess, sleeper-esque, even though I've got them in the top echelon.
Doobie.
I also have the Spurs and the Warriors 1 and 2. Spurs being 1, Warriors being 2. I have the Houston Rockets as my number 3. I have the Memphis Grizzlies as my number 4. The Oklahoma City Thunder as my 5. The Clippers from LA as my 6. I got the New Orleans Pelicans as my 7. And then my biggest surprise of the year, I've got the Sacramento Kings as my 8. I think that Rondo, although he's going to be a huge liability from a locker room standpoint and working with George Karl, he brings talent to a team, and he's going to help them defensively, if nothing else. I'll go into it a little bit later, but I think Willie Cauley-Stein is going to be absolutely massive on the boards and on defense for this team. I think they have a ton of talent with Rudy Gay out there as well. And this team under George Karl has proven to be one of the best coaches in the NBA every time he gets a gig. I'm very excited about them, and I think that they're going to make whoever that family who decided to stay in Sacramento very happy.
Graham.
I've got the Warriors winning the West again. I've also got the Rockets, the Spurs, the Clippers. I've got the Thunder actually coming in 3rd. I talked about them a little bit earlier. I really think they're going to be an exciting team to watch, and they're going to end up being a lot better than most people think. I've got Grizzlies, the Kings, and the Pelicans all making the playoffs this year.
And Molter.
Yeah, that Thunder team's really good, Graham. I agree. I got them actually going first, and Warriors going second, and then basically all the same teams. It's the entire Southwest Division except the Mavs. Rockets is 3 and Spurs is 4. Watch out for the Pelicans. I think with Alvin Gentry there, they're actually going to score some points and be a force to be reckoned with down there. Northwest Division, the Thunder's going to run through it. Every other team in there is really bad except the Jazz. And I also have the Jazz making it as well as the 8 seed. So it'll be a good Western Conference, but I think the East might be better this year.
So just quickly before I give mine, Molter touched on divisions a lot there. Am I incorrect in that this is the first year that divisions have no bearing on playoff, right?
Correct.
Seeding is just straight record, right?
Top 8 teams from both sides.
Yep. So that'll,
Thank God.
That'll we won't get the weird seeding things we've seen in the past where, what was it, the Spurs could have been anywhere from the 2 to the 7 seed if they'd won or lost their final game. Crazy stuff like that.
And the Celtics, I remember, were the 4 seed with a near 500 record.
Yeah. So I got Spurs, Warriors, Thunder in the 4th. I have the Pelicans. I think Anthony Davis continues to just improve and becomes one of the best players we've seen at that size ever play the game. He's got way too much athleticism for that lanky body. I love watching him play. I think he's going to do well. I went crazy with the West because I want chaos in the West because it's the only way that my life is going to be good in basketball. So 5 is Rockets, 6 is Grizzlies, rounding it out with the Timberwolves and the Lakers at the 7 and 8. I'm doing it. You can hate me all you want. The Lakers are making the 8. I don't care. Kobe's going to find a way to stay healthy. It's going to happen. They're 300 to 1 odds to win the NBA championship. I don't even know if I'd throw $10 on that, but I might throw $5 on that if I was in Vegas. They're not going to do it, but I'd love to just see them make the playoffs. With the young team they have, it'd be a great experience. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Biggest surprise, obviously, for me, it's the Pelicans of the 4 seed. The West is deadly. There's so many good teams. I think they really step up. I think they find a way to win a lot of close games that they lost last year. They lost a lot of close games last year. It wasn't documented, talked about too much. But I couldn't count how many times they lost by less than 2 or 3 points. Right there on that 1-2 possession game all season long. So I think they find a way to win those this year with a little more experience and really have a good showing. So now, after that, we're not going to go through all the playoffs. That would just take forever. We're going to go with NBA Finals prediction, who's playing against who, and who's going to win it all. Kyle.
All right, so a lot of us have the same kind of 1-2 punches at the top. I've got the Spurs playing the Cavs. and I've got the Cavs taking it in 6. I don't think LeBron is the 9 again. Love the Spurs, love the Marcus Aldridge, and I think they're going to be the team to beat over the next 3 to 6 years. But for now, I think LeBron gets one more at least. I've got the Cavs taking the title.
Doobie, you're muted and you did it to yourself. So
Yeah, I muted myself.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. Kyle, you said Cavs and Spurs, correct?
Correct.
Well, I'm going to copy you then because I think it's the Cavs versus the Spurs. I'll go one further. I think that we're going to have even a similar conference finals. I've got the Cavs versus the Hawks in the East final. I'll take the Spurs versus the Warriors. But I have the Spurs over the Cavs, unlike you, Kyle. I think you said the Cavs are going to win it. I think it's the opposite way. I think that the Spurs get their one here, and then you have all those other guys. You got Manu, Tim, and Tony calling it. Maybe not Tony, but definitely Manu and Tim calling it after this year, and it takes them a couple of years to add that one more piece that makes them the best team. And I think in that time, the Cavs are going to go on an unbelievable run. I think that roster is ridiculous, but I think they need one more year together to get that up to speed. But Spurs this year, and then Popovich goes on and coaches the United States basketball team to a championship in wherever they play.
All right, Graham.
So for the finals, I've got the Cavs and the Thunder. I think we're going to get a 2012 repeat of Durant versus LeBron. Unfortunately, I think the Cavs are going to pull that out. They're just too good of a team not to win it this year. But I do think the Thunder are actually going to make it all the way.
Mulder.
I'm probably crazy for even thinking this, and Palmer's probably going to mute me. But
I'm getting it ready if you're going to say that.
Yeah, I have the Clippers going.
Okay, so we're moving on. I'm glad he called it.
No, Palmer, can we actually hear what he has to say?
I'll let him hear, but before he does, I'm going to say, if he thinks that at some point this season DeAndre Jordan doesn't just punch Chris Paul in the face in the middle of a game, he's crazy, because it's absolutely going to happen. It almost happened in a preseason game already. So
I'm just hoping that he says it's the Clippers versus the Celtics.
I didn't even give him a chance to give me the East team because the Clippers were so awful. All right, Mulder, let me get you back on here.
And he forgot how to unmute.
There we go. Okay, he's back.
All right. Clippers have Chris Paul, J.J. Redick, Lance Stevenson, Paul Pierce, DeAndre Jordan, Josh Smith, and Blake Griffin. That is a deep team, so really you have to watch out for them. As long as they can control Lance Stevenson and Josh Smith, because they're fucking crazy.
Did you name my boy Austin Rivers to that list?
What'd you say?
Did you name Austin Rivers in that list?
Yeah, you can also add Pablo Prigioni. No, but I got them going against the Cavs, and I have the Cavs winning.
At least it wasn't the Celtics. You would have gone right back to mute.
No.
All right. I'm not going to talk too much because I got Spurs, Cavs as well. I think it's Cavs if they stay healthy again. Because with that roster, I don't think LeBron has to will them to it anymore. He's got fantastic talent around him if they can stay healthy, and he doesn't have to be that mentally tough guy that he is not. Any guy that goes into an elimination game in the finals and says, if I lose this game, I don't care. I've already won 2 championships. My life's good without this. I don't think they have the mental fortitude to pull a team through. But he's got a talent around him, and he doesn't have to do that. So I think they do pull it off.
So I'm the only person who doesn't have the Cavs, I take it.
Yeah.
All right.
That's. I wouldn't be surprised if you are. If it's the odds for the Cavs to win it all, I haven't looked at it, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's like 1-2 or something like that.
I don't know.
We're not like 1-4, 1-5.
The Spurs are. I don't know how they wouldn't be up there.
They'll be up there, but I think Cavs will be odds on. We're gonna move into a few fun little predictions here. We're gonna say predicting the best rookie on the year. Kyle, start us off.
Yeah, Palmer, you're gonna like this one. I'm a huge fan of D'Angelo Russell. I think.
Yes, sir.
I think if the Lakers actually want to compete, Kobe can't play 36 minutes a game, which means that D'Angelo Russell is going to get his run by himself and run that team. I think of all the rookies, it's kind of hard because they're obviously on teams that usually don't compete. I like D'Angelo Russell. I like that he's in LA. It's going to be stars watching him all the time, coverage all the time. I think he's going to be really good for them. They got a young team. and I think he's going to be the Rookie of the Year.
Doobie.
I mentioned it before. I don't necessarily think this guy is going to be Rookie of the Year, but I think he is certainly going to be the best and most impactful rookie on his team. It's Willie Cauley-Stein out of Kentucky, playing for the Kings now. That's a big dude, and on the boards, I've never seen anything like him. Defensively especially, he is a really impressive prospect to me. I can see him dominating from day one on the defensive side of the ball, and I think he's going to do an amazing job. I think the best rookie in this class is Justice Winslow, but I don't think we're going to see that for another 3 to 4 years. He's going to take some time to develop, but the Rookie of the Year could be anyone. But I just don't think a guy who's purely a defensive impact like Willie Cauley-Stein can win it. But I certainly think he's the best player that we'll see among the rookies.
Glad you went that way, because I thought about putting Rookie of the Year prediction, decided against that, and putting best rookie prediction, hoping we'd get a little more variety in that, not necessarily who's going to win the award, but who's most impressive to us. Graham, who do you have?
So unfortunately, I've got Karl Anthony Towns. I think him and Jabari Parker are really going to help the Milwaukee Bucks make it to the playoffs. I know it's really unpopular to have back-to-back Rookie of the Years for the same team, but
Wait,
Did
what?
Graham just say that Karl Anthony Towns on the Milwaukee Bucks?
Did you mess up M cities? Minnesota and Milwaukee are different metropolitan
All right, well,
areas.
oh man,
I'm sad I missed that because I was checking some on the agenda, but Graham is muted for a while now. That's pretty awful. At least he admitted earlier he's not an NBA guy. He came on for the football and the baseball. So,
I was actually pretty impressed with him up to that point.
I mean, I knew something didn't sound right, but I was looking at the agenda for something, and I was like, something's wrong. I don't know what it is. It's just wrong. Glad somebody else caught it. See you, Graham. You'll be back in a minute. Bolter, who you got for best rookie?
I'm going with Miles Turner again from the Indiana Pacers. He was basically the second best center in the class behind Julio Okafor. He can pass the ball. He shot like 85% from the free throw line in college for his 1 year. He's Big 12 freshman of the year. The dude can really play basketball, and he could really impact this Pacers team. I'm looking forward to seeing him play.
Dude, I got to watch him in person in the summer league for a couple days. Oh, he was so good, man. He was so good.
He's well polished.
Yeah, absolutely. He was everybody said he was a stretch pick where the Pacers got him, but he's turned out to be a really good deal for them, at least right now.
So I was mad for a second because I thought Graham stole mine with Towns, but he botched the analysis so bad, so I'm sticking with my pick of Towns. I think he's going to learn how to be that tough personality from Kevin Garnett. As much as I do hate the Celtics, there's no denying that he's not a true Celtic to me. He's not. He went there just so he could get a ring real quick and left him again. But if you want a guy to learn toughness in this league, that's a guy you want him to learn it from. And Kevin Garnett, I think you can do a lot with him. You still got Andrew Wiggins. I said it earlier, they're my most exciting team. Zach LaVine, Ricky Rubio. I think Towns is going to be able to do a lot around those guys, and they're really going to help him shine. So I'm going with that. My second would have been Russell. Glad you said it, Kyle. Fantastic passer of the ball. Cannot wait to see what he does in the next 5-10 years. So moving into our final topic of the NFL season preview. Graham didn't have a thing for this anyway, so he's going to stay muted a while, continue his punishment. It's going to be the biggest flop. This can be a team. This can be a player. Heck, it could be even be a coach if you want. Just the biggest flop prediction of the season. Kyle, start it up.
Okay, so as much as Palmer loved my last one, Walter's not going to like this one. I don't like where the Mavericks are headed. I think they kind of went all in on DeAndre Jordan, understandably so. Sold out for him, didn't get him. The whole Darren Williams coming back, homecoming thing is cool. I'm not sure if it pans out. I think they're going to drop off vastly from where they've been over the last 7 to 8 years. I think it's time to rebuild, as much as Cuban might not want to accept that fact, that he can just continue to, compete year in and year out. I think it might be that time.
Doobie.
Well, Malter's also apparently not going to like this pick because I have the Celtics as my biggest flop. I really don't understand all of this hype around them. Adding David Lee and Amir Johnson is not exactly adding two pieces that are going to change the world, in my opinion. I know they've got a bunch of young talent, but Marcus Smart is literally their most explosive player, and he's not even that explosive. I just don't see it. Brad Stevens is a good coach, but I don't think they're ready to get there yet. Do they have a chance in the future? Yes. But to go to another football analogy, with David Lee being Reggie Wayne, I think when he changes locker rooms, he might suffer a little bit of a culture change since he was out there in Golden State so long out in Oakland. I just don't see the Boston Celtics being that team this year. I really would say that my second would be Karl Anthony Towns. I didn't really understand the hype behind him as much as some of the other prospects. I like Jahlil Okafor much better. I like Willie Cauley-Stein much better. And if I was a GM, I would have picked Justice Winslow with the first overall pick, which maybe sounds outlandish, but I just, for some reason, I get some feeling from Willie Cauley-Stein that he's going to be a bust. But then again, I also thought that Anthony Bennett was the perfect pick at number 1 when the Cavs took him 2 years ago. So another thing for me to sleep in the dumpster about.
All right, Molter, who's your flop?
Well, can I do some rebuttal first?
Yeah, go for it.
No, it's about the Celtics.
You don't forget about Isaiah Thomas on the Celtics. He should.
No, I just Molter.
Let him say it.
And then the Mavs, Carlisle just got a 5-year extension, so we're rebuilding already. But my biggest flop, or whatever, if you could even call it a flop, is the Brooklyn Nets. Last year alone, they were bottom third in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks, and now they don't have Darren Williams. So that team's going to be really bad. Watch out for Bogdanovic. He could average 20 points, and no one will even know who he is.
I will say I agree with you, Walter. I think that the Nets might lose more games and win less than the 76ers do, honestly.
Yeah, that's horrible, for sure.
Bold.
Did they even pick anyone in this draft? Was it because of the Hawks trade they didn't have any picks?
They traded to the Celtics, too.
Yeah.
So they're just, that's going to be a bad team for a while.
They don't have a first round either.
Yeah, they're going to be a bad team for a really long time. I don't think they can lure anyone to Brooklyn either.
So for my flop, all of our flops are going either against Molter's team or Molter's predictions, because I'm going to Clippers. I think there is a locker room explosion waiting to happen. The crap in the offseason with DeAndre Jordan. He hates Chris Paul. Blake Griffin hates Chris Paul. They can't stand him. They're proving why there's only one true team in LA, because all these other people don't know how to handle the limelight. They don't know how to handle Los Angeles. It is a different thing. It is a different beast. It's why the Lakers haven't been good in a few years, because they can't find the players to come in that can handle being a Los Angeles basketball player. It's a completely different thing. Their locker room is not handling it well. It's why they haven't won a championship with that loaded roster. It's why they can't. They're going to explode. They're going to flop. It's going to be fantastic to watch for me. I just hope they don't mess the Staples Center up too bad for when the real team plays. So that is it for our agenda on NBA. If there's anything else anyone wants to add to the NBA topics, anything at all, anything about the season, here's your chance. Kyle, anything?
Not really. I'm excited for it to get started tomorrow. I get to go to the Magic home opener on Wednesday night, so I'm pumped about that. So,
Doobie.
I think that you saw, a guy come out of Atlanta and make a big career out of it, go over to Toronto last year. Here's a name I'm going to give you for this year, Justin Holiday. He's Jrue Holiday's little brother. Came from Golden State over to Atlanta. I think you're going to see big things of him at the 2/3 position, and I'm calling it right now. You're going to be shocked that he fills that role so well.
They need someone to replace Carroll, because Carroll was a beast for their slots. So
Damari Carroll going over to Toronto, yeah. Exactly.
They really got to replace that production. He was, in my opinion, their best player all year.
And I'll be at the Hawks-Nets game in Atlanta next Wednesday, so I'll get to watch that Nets team live in person. I'm very excited about it.
Why is Serio's shirt unbuttoned?
Hey guys,
we'll get to
wanted
that.
To stop in on this NBA discussion.
Anyway, Serio's now muted. Molter, any last NBA parting thoughts for our guest today?
Yeah, I'm gonna also jump on the Milwaukee Bucks bandwagon as well. Their starting 5 average is 6'9", and I heard some stat that after Michael Carter Williams got on the team, they went from bottom of the league in steals to first since he got there, and he went to 2 steals a game. So that's a really good team. Jason Kidd's going to teach Michael Carter-Williams really well. And other than that, if you want to see any other information from me, go to applyingthepress.com, and you'll see some more stuff there.
We're starting up a nice little sports press website. It's going to be a lot of fun little stories. He'll be hopping on now and then, especially talk some basketball. I know when college basketball gets going, he's going to be all about it. He lives and breathes this stuff, so glad he was able to join us, Moulter. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thank you.
See you, Mo.
See you guys.
Bye.
All right, we're going to jump right into some World Series. I know we're running late. If you want to listen to us talk about some baseball, we're going to do it.
Can we let Sirio say what I feel like he's gonna have a conniption if we don't let him say there's something about basketball that he wants to say. I could see it in his face.
Go.
All right, Sirio. I've been told the consensus is that you get to say something about basketball.
Well, I appreciate it. You did ask if anyone had something to say, so I've actually been thinking of this all night watching you knuckleheads talk about it. First things first, I have to say the Pelicans are going to be the most shocking team. Anthony Davis is getting better and better. He is the biggest superstar in the league in the future, growing. The rest of their roster is also ridiculously good and extremely underrated. They have Ryan, can't miss a three, Anderson, Norris. I kind of watched LeBron James play on the bench. Cole, Tyreek Evans, who's very underrated. Drew, assist machine. Holiday, Kendrick, my knees are made of glass. Perkins, Nate, I also cannot miss a three and cannot shoot anything over a guy 5'11", Robinson. They're going to be really good. They're going to have a lot of flash. And another thing, you guys didn't talk about Miami. I think that they're going to be a really good team. If you look at their roster, they still are extremely, extremely stacked, even though they lost LeBron. Chris Bosh is still really good. Mario Chalmers is still growing. Luol Deng is just a couple years out from the Chicago team. They traded for Gordon Dragic last season. Justice Winslow was their first-round pick. I saw him at Duke. He's going to be a very good defender alongside Hassan Whiteside, who is probably the most underrated center in the league. Really busted on the scene last season. Dwayne Wade will play like 3 games. It's a sad story. I can't believe none of you guys talked about Miami. I think that they're going to be a team to watch.
Definitely a good point on Miami. It didn't happen to hit any of our talking points, but I think we all did have them decently high up in the East playoffs. Davis, I'm right there with you. You couldn't have been watching too hard because you basically said what I said, except the Norris Cole comment was fantastic.
And then the last thing I just want to talk on real quick, my rookie of the year, I apologize, is Super Mario for the Orlando Magic. He's been a pro since he was 17. I'm really glad that Doobie talked about, nice shirt, Kyle, that Doobie talked about Jahlil Okafor, because I think that it does take guys a little bit of time to develop. Not that Mario's going to be the best player, because that would be ridiculous of me to say that, but he's been a pro for 3 years, whereas these other guys have been in school, they've been playing collegiate basketball. He's been in the second best basketball league in the world, in my opinion, in Spain, played for Barcelona. I think he's going to win it this year just because he's got 3 years of experience. It's not going to be a big thing. He's not expected to be the star on the team.
All right, well, now that all of our live viewers have ditched while Sirio talks a little basketball, we're going to finally move into our World Series preview. It is starting tomorrow. It's always good. Maybe it's not the most flashy teams we've ever seen in it, but there's a lot of exciting, a lot of really good young pitching. I'm really excited to watch. A little shocked at the opening matchup. A little shocked Harvey over DeGrom for the Mets. Thought DeGrom would definitely get the game 1, but we'll see what happens with Harvey. Started off, Kyle, what do you got for the World Series?
Yeah, I'm really excited for tomorrow night. It should be a lot of fun watching TV with opening night for basketball and the World Series, so flipping back and forth. I've got the best in 6. I think Daniel Murphy is going to continue his tear. I think they've got too much pitching. Their starting pitching has been pretty well rested to this point. I think the reason Harvey's getting the nod is just to try to keep them on, the same rest. He would have had Game 5 if they needed it. Obviously, they didn't in the NLCS. They're just trying to keep them on that same path. I really like the Mets. I love the Royals, but it's going to be a battle of leadoff guys. Curtis Granderson and Alcides Escobar both had great postseasons. Granderson's been unbelievable. He stole every bag you could possibly imagine against Chicago. So I think whoever sets the tone better for their team is going to lead their team to victory. I think it's Granderson.
Doobie, what you got?
I've got the Mets in 5. I really don't think this is much of a series, and simply because I just don't think that the pitching matchups can work at all. More so than Matt Harvey being started in Game 1, I was surprised with Edison Volquez being started in Game 1 for the Royals. I don't like that at all. I think Game 1 in Kansas City sets the tone for that series. I still think the ace of the team is Johnny Cueto, even though he hasn't performed like it. But if you're not going to start him, at least start Ventura. You don't have a good matchup in this series. Matt's is by far the best matchup you have, and he's probably better than anyone you've got going on your squad. I think pitching wins championships. I don't think that the small ball can work if you can't get men on base. And literally we saw it in Game 6 of the Royals series against the Blue Jays. If they're not running around the bags and making moves on the base pads that other teams don't make, they don't win games. So I don't think they're going to be able to do that because I don't think they get on base, and I think it's a pretty easy series for the Mets. I think Murphy goes cold, I will say that, but I think that we have Cespedes go real hot, be the World Series MVP, and get signed to the most max milli contract that New York has ever seen outside of the Yankees.
It's funny on that Daniel Murphy comment. I saw people talking after they swept the Cubs. Like, can we sign Murphy up for some like co-rec softball leagues or something to throw him on some business leagues in the city? Because if he stops swinging the bat, this is just not good. It's a long layoff for him, so I agree. I don't think he can keep the streak going after that kind of layoff. Graham, what do you got for the series?
So I've got the Mets in 7. I think the Mets are by far the best team over the Royals. But I think it really comes down to what Cespedes do we get. Cespedes is a little nicked up right now. If he can be the Cespedes that actually should be the NL MVP, I don't care what you say about Bryce Harper. He turned that team around and actually made them into a playoff team. Without him, the Mets wouldn't be a playoff team. Johnny Cueto
is getting hard right now.
Johnny Cueto with a 7.88 ERA in the postseason. He's not the stud that he should be. This just isn't his year. But I really think it comes down to the starting pitching, and the only reason Harvey is starting Game 1 of the World Series is because if he didn't, Scott Boras is going to have such a big fit that he was going to make sure none of his clients ever sign with the Mets ever again.
All right, Syrio, you look raring to go over there, man.
I am raring to go. I do agree with pretty much everything Doobie said. We had kind of mentioned or talked about this a little bit, but I think one thing he's overlooking is the inter-league rules. Having 4 of the 7 games with the DH really does change the entire matchup. Kansas City plays small ball. I think that is going to help them when they go to the NL as well. It's easy for a pitcher to have 8 strikeouts when he faces a pitcher 3 times or 2 times, whatever. It's a different game when you have to go and face 9 quality hitters. You don't really get that break. You don't really get that relief where you move into the 7, 8 hitters and you know that, okay, if I walk the 8 hitter intentionally or unintentionally, I can get to the 9 and strike him out, no harm done. I think that really is going to put a lot of pressure when it does happen, maybe once a game or twice a game. It's going to put pressure on these young guys that we haven't seen before, that, Harvey hasn't had, DeGrom hasn't had, Syndergaard. They're all so young, they're all so talented, but I think that Kansas City is just so relentless. They hit singles. They don't rely on, bombs and hitting doubles, and that they can score no matter what. So I do agree with everything you guys have said. I just think that the league factors are really going to play into the pitching and the hitting. And I think that will determine the series. Royals in 6.
Now, I do have a question. Is it the same as the other series? Is it 2-3-2?
Yes.
So, that being the case, the reason behind my logic is that Edison Volquez, I don't see him winning Game 1 by any way, chance, or form. So I think that they take that game. I think the Royals take Game 2. I believe it is Ventura
With
pitching in
Cueto?
game 2.
No, it's Cueto.
It's Cueto. Either way, then I believe yes, I believe the Royals take game 2, and then I think the Mets sweep it those 3 straight in Citi Field, where it's not an advantage. So I agree. That's what I'm saying. I think it would be 3 straight. I think it's 2-3-2.
Oh, you think they're gonna win game 2? Okay.
So
I think the Royals would win game 2.
But Sirio, you mentioned having the home field advantage and having the designated hitter. I mean, who do the Royals have that's going to be their 9th hitter that's actually better than whoever the Mets are going to put at their 9th hitter?
I will say Kendrys Morales has been really good in postseason.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying that the Mets can roll out this player and he's going to be the difference, or Kansas City won't have this DH and they're going to have to hit the pitcher. I'm just saying having that rule, not having the 7-8 hitter, okay, it's the back of the lineup. If I give up a run, no worries, I can get the pitcher out, force a double play with the leadoff guy, whatever. It puts that pressure on. You never have that break. You never have that in the back of your head that, I have a little bit of time to ease up. It's constant. And I think that shapes how the game's played.
So, Sirius, I was curious, and you didn't go Mets. I was only going to say, if you did, that you were the only one that had the Mets not even getting out of the first round of the playoffs in our original playoff predictions. So it would have been a little interesting to see you then picking them to win it all.
No.
Do y'all think that in any way the youth of the Mets pitching factors in? I don't, but I've heard it brought up. They haven't shown any nerves yet in the postseason, but World Series at different stage. Do you think those young pitchers, you got Thor DeGrom out there, does anyone see any kind of faltering they have?
Maybe from Matt, but that's it.
See, I don't think that it's going to be they're going to psych themselves out because they're professionals. They've been doing this since they could walk. If they're just going to treat it like another game, they're going to settle their nerves just to make it this far. I'm sure they've been shitting their pants.
The only reason I say that about Matt is he hasn't had the experience that the other guys have had. He only had 5 regular season starts.
Well, in the MLB level.
Yeah, but that's a big difference.
World Series stage is very different than minor leagues. Also, it's something that in general in sports, in what world is a 2-3-2 setup an advantage to the first home team? I don't believe it is. Yeah, I think having to play 3 straight away games is absurd. I'm glad the NBA finally got away from that, and the finals are now 2-2-1-1-1. I don't think that you get an advantage if you play the first 2 and last 2. I think those 3 straight away is not a good thing.
I agree.
I agree.
I was trying to think earlier today of why they would do that, whether it would be for the interleague rules or whether it be for like the bullpen.
It's for travel time.
It's definitely travel. That's why they do it.
But more condensed television.
But the NBA has the same issue. The NBA goes West Coast, East Coast.
Not historically, though. That's a recent change. That's a recent change.
The NBA's final lasts 2 weeks. That's why, because it's 2-2-1-1-1.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Any closing thoughts on the World Series?
I was also just going to bring up the bullpen. Even though the Royals lost Greg Holland, you saw it in the Toronto series. The guys that they have are just absolutely lights out. Wade Davis, if you put a Greg Holland jersey on him, you wouldn't even be able to tell. He's been a stud, and I think he makes the difference. It turns the game into an 8-inning affair for the opposing team because that Wade Davis is going to put a 0 on the 9th.
Who would have thought that Wade Davis would be the key piece of the Jason Shields Will Myers trade?
Yeah, seriously, that's a good point.
Not uncommon for those guys that almost their throwaways in trades or like the second thought. They take that as a chip and they run with it and they say,
Absolutely.
I don't. They feel disrespected and they it motivates them. It really puts a fire under them.
Absolutely. Sweet.
Of the four-man starting rotation for the Mets, I think Syndergaard has the worst outing of the 4 in the first 4 games. I don't think he makes it out of the 4th inning.
I kind of hope they throw him up if he won't be playing in American League rules.
No, he'll be playing game 3.
If he was, I would love to see them throw him up there to bat though. If he was pitching in a DH game.
That'd be cool.
All right. Anything else, guys? Are we ready to close it out for the night?
Yeah, I got. I'm gonna do an honorary Graham power rankings. So I was watching you guys, and I decided that Halloween is all about decorations and keeping things festive. So it got me thinking, who's got the best backdrop? So I did a little power ranking on the backdrops. Now I'm gonna go in reverse order. Walter, sorry I did not do you. So number 4 is Palmer. He's laying in bed. Looks like he's got IKEA furniture. It's nice. I get it. Black is the new style. But you need to get some decoration, man. You need to get like maybe some bobbleheads up there or like little shot glasses of place you've been traveling to. It's cool, but you could definitely have some room for improvement.
I don't know what you do in your bed, but you can't put stuff up here in a normal man's bed. It just doesn't work.
Oh, I get it. I see where you're going. I get
it. All right, moving on to number 3. Number 3 is Kyle. He's also got some nice decorations. I see the MLB poster up there. I love it. That's a pretty sweet poster. He's also got the black going on with that shelf. I touched on it earlier. Black is the new style. The Magic up there.
What logo is on that shelf?
MLB.
Magic.
No, on the shelf.
You can barely read it because your video
He
sucks.
just said it.
Yeah.
He just said it.
Magic. Yeah, it's nice. Let's see. Coming in at number 2, this was a real neck and neck between Graham and Doobie. But coming in at number 2, I've got Doobie. He's displaying the competitor Bud Light. As we all know, AA is sponsored by Miller Lite. So, putting a competitor on the front line is pretty fucked up in my opinion. The SWOT analysis is really nice, though. As we all know, our friend Perry was a master in business school, so it's good to see he's applying that knowledge. And the tin poster over his right shoulder is also pretty nice. But coming in at number 1, Graham Morris. He's got the Freeman, not posters, jerseys. I get it. That's funny. They're both of his teams. They're both catalysts for the team. They both have the same last name. Very cool. He's got the new Delta paddles next to him. We were all in New Delta, and he's got just a little hint of workout drinks on his dresser. Just something to spice it up and make everyone, think that he's active. So there you go. That's our rankings.
All right, so if you're still listening, there's probably something a little bit wrong with you because we're at about an hour and a half and we're talking about decorations in the rooms. While Serial doesn't even have a shirt on.
There's actually been breaking news. Carl Anthony Towns just got traded from the Bucks to the Timberwolves. So there you go.
Okay, so see you later, Graham. I almost, as soon as he said the words breaking news, muted him. I gave him a chance. We're running late. We got to go. It's been good. See y'all next week.
Go